Oh,
Welcome everyone to Gotham City Bulletin. As always, I am subject. We've got Robert and Noah. We're here to talk about Spider-Man: Homecoming.
yeah.
Yeah, there it is. All right, we got
Best,
that joke out of the way. Now we
the
can
the
talk
best,
about the penguin.
the best Spider-Man movie. Without
Wow.
even any competition.
It's pretty good.
Uh, Noah, tell us what you thought about Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Well, I think Spider-Man: Homecoming is pretty good. I also think this episode of The Penguin, also entitled
Who's
Homecoming,
who's the Penguin?
the Penguin is a Batman villain, and this is his
Who's
show,
Batman?
not
Well,
Spider-Man.
watch the new episode. You told me to watch Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Oh, sorry, I think you misinterpreted that.
I thought we were talking about Halloween Resurrection, which was originally called Halloween Homecoming. So I'm just
We're
also so
actually
confused.
we're actually talking about that Amazon original series Homecoming
There's
from
an
like 10
Amazon
years ago.
show?
Yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
Some people get that reference, but anyway. No,
Wait,
but we're
tell me what
talking
you thought
about
about the newest episode
we're talking about
of the
Penguin.
Penguin.
Yeah, so this picks up from the previous episode, which is the Sophia episode. So we're kind of back in the present timeline, and dealing with the fallout of her killing all of the Falcons. So the playing field. So the status quo, it's now Sophia, Oz, and the Maronis. Those are the big dogs of the crime world left in Gotham. Um, but we're not just focusing on her. We're also back with Vic and Oz, following what they're doing. They need to get back their shrooms, which were stolen by the Maronis in the previous episode. And yeah, so we're back to following more characters, and it's very much more of that ensemble kind of thing. And I like this episode quite a bit. I liked it more on a second watch. On a first watch, it kind of rang as a little bit more like setup than things like actually happening. But on a second watch, it's like, oh no, like we are still making a lot of progress here. And like we talked about before, in this series, I figured that this episode would kind of need to slow things down a bit because we're dealing with a lot more stuff, and we just need to set things up and develop that.
Which is funny because I don't think it's slowed down. It's just you and I talked about this. Where I was like, I kind of hope that episode 4 is the kind of the plateau of this show. And I don't want to give away my feelings on this episode yet because I have conflicted feelings. But I'm kind of thinking that maybe episode 4 is going to be the peak. We're not going to get any higher than that.
I don't know. It could have another peak. This is not as good as episode 4, but it doesn't need to be. It's a bridging chapter in
No,
the story.
and I'm not saying it is, but this is in that rough spot where it's like, well, we just had this like really great flashback episode. What do we do now? Answer is we move with the
Right.
plot along, but it's like
Yeah.
you're up here and then you kind of have to come down a little bit
Yeah.
here. Not literally, like not literal levels, but
But that all being said, that all aside, it still has some fantastic moments, and I think maybe episode 2 is the weakest episode so far of the series. And when I first watched this, I was like, oh, this is feeling a little bit like episode 2. But I think this has more standout moments than that episode. And there's 2 moments in particular, which we can get into later, that my jaw was just on the floor, and I was just like, oh shit, that just happened. um, and, by the end of the episode, I'm still very excited to see what comes next. So, yeah, good episode.
Robert, original recipe or extra crispy?
Both. No, I thought this episode was really good. I'm still in where this show may never not be as good as episode 4, and for me that's not a problem because episode 4 was fantastic, and if the rest of the show is just good, that's fine for me. a good show is a good show. I'm still really invested in these characters and this plot. And it's funny because last week we were saying, oh, episode 5 might be kind of the cool down episode where we slow things down. And I didn't think this was slow or set up at all. A lot of stuff happens in this episode. Like it's still moving for me at a clip. There's still a lot of progress. We're just back to Oz's perspective and kind of the main plot. So no, I thought there was some great developments in this one. Not as good as episode 4, obviously.
As I thought it would be. But it does get plotty at the end, but not in a bad way. It's like, oh, I need episode 6 now. We got 3 episodes left. I have no idea where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm with you there, John, because I felt more that towards the end. There's some stuff with Oz's mom. There's kind of a conflict that I feel like we need a little bit more context with, but I think we will get it when we get the Oz flashbacks to when he was a kid, whatever episodes that's going to be. But
Draven just popped in the chat and said, I think there's a flashback episode for Oz coming soon.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, there will be. I think so.
I wish it had been this episode. Just keep that that high going. Not that this episode is bad.
I like that we break things up a bit too.
I think when we have the whole picture to look at, it's better to not have like too many flashback episodes in a row.
And that is also the struggle for me is reviewing this is because I don't have it all yet. I can't talk about it as a piece. I can talk about it as a week-to-week television show. Whereas for week to week, it's all about that high, right? Like you're riding that high because you want to see the next episode, but then you have to have the downs too, because there's no way that this episode, with moving the plot forward, was ever going to match the highs of the last episode, which is not a bad thing at all, but it is something worth talking about.
Yeah, and I thought I'd bring that up immediately, but
should have dropped it all at once, you bastards.
No, I like living with this week to week.
Yeah,
I like both.
Yeah. I think it was something worth mentioning at the beginning of the discussion, just so we don't spend all this time being like, well, it's not as good as episode 4.
I know, it's not as good as episode 4?
It's not as good as episode 4. But like we're saying, it doesn't have to be. And there's a lot of moments in this episode that I think are some of the most shocking of the series so far.
Yeah. I'm sad that Maroni's wife is spoilers. Human barbecue now.
Yeah.
I like that actress.
I do too. When that happened, I was like, oh, I guess we're taking out all the Maronis in this episode, but we do not.
We don't.
But yeah, when we lose her, it was a little sad because that actress is fantastic, but she was great. And again, shows how ruthless this penguin is. he makes some plays in this episode.
So okay, so I have a small complaint with that, and I don't know if it's a valid one. Why are you so dumb? Like, okay, you're doing a hostage exchange. The hostage is dripping with fluid. Maybe
I think what she, I think
covered in first.
I think she thought like they were maybe waterboarding him or something. I don't think she immediately put together that it was gasoline.
Okay,
and of course, like her plan.
Here's the problem with that, because it's funny you mention that, because that's actually what I thought at first. But there's that scene where she's like hugging and holding him. You can't tell me she didn't smell gasoline.
Yeah, for sure. But I'd have to watch it again. But I mean, she's also planning on ambushing Oz and had the guys ready. So, it's kind of a bloodbath all around. But, it's just the chaos of the moment. None of that rang false for me.
I don't know. Like, you smell gasoline. Like, maybe we should call this off because this could go poorly for the guy that I'm here to rescue.
Yeah, but it's her son. She's not thinking straight.
I mean, I didn't think about that, but yeah, like Robert just said, it's her son. I feel like her maternal instincts kind of just kicked in, and
But wouldn't her maternal instincts be to protect him, not put him in the middle of a firefight?
Yeah, it's a nitpick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was a nitpick, but like, it's also got a bit of a logical problem.
No, I see what you're saying, but it's not something that really bothered me that much.
That didn't bother me until Robert's like, it's fine. Just kidding.
Now it's a problem.
Yeah, fuck you, Robert.
But on that scene, because I was thinking during that scene, and I don't know, I don't know if I have an answer to this question, but it was something I was thinking about, and it's hard to compare with the other stuff that Oz has done so far in this series. But do you guys think that this is the most evil thing he's ever done? Like
No.
burning alive those two?
Evil. I don't know.
No, because lest you forget, he is one of the main reasons that Sophia ends up in Arkham. And that is arguably worse than setting those two on fire.
Well, okay, the thing that struck me about this scene, though, is that when it cuts to his face, he gets like some sort of sick satisfaction.
Yeah, he's watching.
He's just like watching them for a bit.
But also, I don't think he would have done that if they hadn't betrayed him first. So, like, yeah, he's getting satisfaction.
I think that's how he
just tried to fuck him over.
I think that's how he justifies everything, though. He doesn't turn on Sophia until she yells at him and says, "Hey, you're just my driver. You're nothing." Like that's just how he rationalizes everything. Like, "Oh, you do good by me. You're my friend." But the second you screw me over, it's done.
Yeah. The moral of the story is don't screw over your friends or your enemies.
John's like, Oz was right. I would have burned them too.
Have gone to that degree, but I would argue that sending someone to Arkham for shock therapy and torture for 10 years.
But it's also debatable how much he knew that was going to happen, or how. I mean, we've talked about this before, but how much of that was Carmine's idea, how much of that was them conspiring together.
Yeah.
We still don't know how.
But none of that would have happened if he hadn't told Carmine that she was seeing the reporter.
No, that's true, but it wasn't Oz's plan.
Right. I'm just saying that's kind of a
But even indirectly, that's still like worse because he was a major contribution to what happened.
I see what you're
saying. Semantics, like
I see what you're saying, but I just found this scene a lot more like viscerally effective, where he's getting a sick satisfaction out of watching these two people burn in front of him.
Yeah, he didn't witness anything that happened to Sophia, or even wanted all that to happen to her. It was just like, well.
It also calls into question.
No, but he wanted her out of the way, and he didn't care how it happened.
The scene also calls into question like how much of his humanity he still has, because we've talked about before how Oz, he's a bad guy, but you can tell that there's still a little bit of humanity in him, and like and with Sophia, it's debatable whether or not he, was good friends with her before he betrayed her. That scene in episode 3 where he's like almost breaking down crying kind of like gives evidence to that fact, or that argument. But
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the people that he kills and maybe does take enjoyment out of are people that have wronged him in some way. And I think that goes into the anti-hero thing. Like I said, I don't think he would have killed them if they had kept their end of the bargain.
No, yeah, but it's interesting because you can tell. So it's almost like he has complete compassion for people who he's like friends with and his loved ones, but as soon as they betray him, that can completely change, and they're human garbage to him.
Well, and I think
I really like that. I kind of respect that in a weird sort of way.
Yeah, well, and remember, Maroni's wife turned on him and almost got him killed 2 episodes ago. So he already knew that ship had sailed. So I think he was always planning on killing her and her son in this episode. I guess you could argue that the gasoline thing was just a plan B, but that was already a relationship that was impossible to repair. And his plan was to get Maroni himself killed at the same time. So he knows if he gets Maroni killed but spares his family, then his family is going to come after him. So from my perspective, I think it was always his plan to kill them all, which is why I'm leaning toward like Nah, he's pretty evil, or at least pretty dark in this
I
episode.
think he intended to at least kill the wife and at some point, but I would think that he would want them all together when he does it because now this has made Maroni desperate and dangerous, and just
But
the way
he
that
couldn't do
plays,
that.
I don't. He couldn't do that in that scene. But that's what I'm saying is I don't think he would have killed them in that scene, used the gasoline, because you notice he doesn't do it until they turn on him.
You might be right, but I'm just saying that like his plan, I think, had already been set in motion to get Maroni himself killed. So I think he was always planning on taking out the family. I might change my mind on a rewatch.
What do you think, Noah?
I think his plan changes on the circumstance. I think he's a
For sure.
fast thinker.
Yeah.
So I'd have to rewatch the whole series to like get a good idea of when he was thinking that, but I do believe that at some point, because he's thinking of being top dog, so at
Mhm.
some point he's going to have to do something about the Maronis.
And Maroni's wife has already tried to kill him twice in the show.
But also killing her backfires because
It does,
destroys the
which is why-
bliss. Which is
yeah.
why I don't think he would have done it there, because logically it puts the product at risk.
I don't know if he was thinking that. I think that was a real surprise to him when most of those died. I think that was just an oversight on his part.
That is his fault, because when he sets the fire, that like triggers the sprinklers, and that's what dilutes the product.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's reckless. He's not that stupid.
I don't know.
Well,
I just thought he didn't
I
think
think
about that.
I think that was his recklessness in that moment.
But
Everybody's
everything that
a-
he's been
everybody-
reckless. His recklessness is usually impulsiveness, and it's never been
Okay.
something that could. It's never been. This is hard to put into words. Like
It's never been premeditated.
killing that kid in the first episode, I forget his name, Sophia's brother, is something that will get him into a lot of deep shit, but he has a way out. And he's never ruined his way out for himself before when he's being impulsive. Like he usually knows, oh, if I do this, then I'll get here. He still has that way out. So destroying his way to the top that he thinks is the bliss. It feels like that was very in the moment. I have to react because they're going to try to kill me.
Okay, that's just not how it played to me. And also, he couldn't possibly predict how the product would be stored or what type of vehicle they'd be using. There are many scenarios that you just couldn't possibly see ahead on, and I don't know if he thought like, well, if I light them on fire, then that's going to trigger. Like, I just don't know if he thought about that stuff. That's just not how it read to me.
Yeah, but they're mushrooms. Like fire extinguishers usually ruin food.
But if they were all in containers, then they all would have been fine. That's why only a couple buckets survived.
No mushrooms. Anyway, Clancy Brown Draven says, "Hi, Clancy Brown didn't die for once yet."
Yeah, he's still here.
Were
that
you
was a
guys,
relief.
were you guys fooled by the fake out death?
I wasn't, because I figured, okay, they would have shown more of that. It was like that initial disappointment of, oh, I guess Maroni's dead, but also I think they would have shown that more, so we're probably
Right.
going to see him again. That was my
I
headspace
was
in
not
that.
because I was multitasking, so I missed the actual hit attempt. The next time I saw Maroni was when he called Oz like bleeding. I was like, wait a minute, how did he get here? That's fine. It's
No.
weird. The Sophia subplot actually, I feel like, was the part that dragged the episode down a bit for me. Just because
Really?
it didn't get a lot done. It's just, oh, I put together like a new mob under my mom's name.
I think that's pretty important for her character, her reclaiming her mom's name. We get a lot more context for her backstory. And it's all through dialogue this time. It's not through flashback, but about how her mom was planning on leaving her dad, and that's why he killed her. And the struggles her mom went through before that, and that Johnny Vitti actually liked her, and what was her cousin. Like, we do get a lot more context for that dynamic. And her reclaiming her mom's name is a pretty big deal. And then, of course, killing Johnny Vitti. That
That
one of
made
the
me laugh
fucker
really
moments where-
hard.
That was great because I thought like, okay, we might string him along for a couple episodes. Oh no, he's dead. Okay, and that's the big part of her arc in this episode is okay. Now I am killing the Falcone name. The Falcones are done. I just care about my mom and that side of my family now. Like that's a pretty big deal, and that stuff really worked for me.
And it's not that just that too. Remember, this is also where she forms an alliance with Salvatore, so they're
Yeah.
going to be working together in the next episode.
Which I didn't call, at least until like it was going down. Like, oh, that's where this is going. Is a Sal and Sophia team up? I didn't think that's where we'd be, but I'm totally
Yeah.
cool with it.
It wasn't bad by any means, but I have that same thing I've had with most of these episodes when it's not the flashback. It's like, get it back to the Penguin. Like, that's what I'm here for. Which is weird, because I do like Sophia a lot. I don't know. It's just weird.
I also
I do
like
like how they incorporate the Gigante name. I didn't expect that they'd go there.
I also only saw this once, so maybe I'd feel different in the second viewing.
Yeah, because in the comics, I think she marries someone and gets that name, but in this, they changed that to her being her mother's maiden name.
It was mother's
which is a change I think.
I think it really works for the narrative and what they're doing with her arc.
I also
go on. And also the scene with her talking to Johnny Vitti when he's like, "Oh yeah, like I knew that your mom wanted to leave and she never actually left because of you kids." I don't know how much of it is him just, trying to survive, or if he actually did care about Sophia's mom, because there's also that line Sophia has where she's like, yeah, well, you knew all this and you were still his underboss for years. So that stuff is left a little bit vague, but I think it still works.
And we get that scene with her talking to Chief Mackenzie, who is from the Batman, played by the same actor. Yeah. Again, a good little pull. Like, yes, just filling out this world and having that connection is really cool.
I'm glad that guy's back, but man, I cannot take that voice seriously.
I was gonna say
I love it. He has such a distinct voice.
When he shows up, I was like, "Oh, it's the guy with the funny voice."
And I love how she plays that scene.
I did. Of course. No, I did the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing.
I love how she plays that scene where like her line's kind of bad, like she's laying it on too thick. It's great.
I love the fake tears she has. It's like, oh, my family.
But you also get a good little moment where for possibly the last time she sees that little girl, and you just see that look on her face where like maybe she has just a tiny bit of regret, or just like, oh fuck, that kid now has gone through what I went through. You can interpret that so many different ways, just what that look on her face means of just like, ah, shit. Like, sorry, kid. This isn't your fault.
Yeah. So any new predictions for episode 6 with the new information we have?
Well, Oz and Vic are gonna steal the Batmobile because they're underneath the old abandoned caves of Gotham, near where the Batcave is. So they got to stumble into it at some point.
I don't know if they will, but I love that.
No, they're not going to do
that. But we do have a new base of operations for them, though.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool, and looks like that's gonna pick up some real steam in the next one, with him manufacturing now and selling this new drug. I'm looking forward to that, and we get a lot of good moments with him and Vic in this episode, and Vic with his mom. And there's also that really tense scene when they first go to Oz's old neighborhood, which is why it's called Homecoming, where he's like, "Oh shit, there's that guy, that said the squid, who knows me, and I can't." And he clearly sees him, so it's like, "Oh fuck it. Is this what's gonna get Oz's mom killed?" That's
one
my
of the
main
things
prediction.
That's unresolved in this episode, but I'm like, that's something that's gonna come back soon. Yeah,
we all keep assuming that Oz's mom is gonna die in this show. That'll be the biggest curveball is if she somehow comes out of the show alive, because we're also seeing that her dementia is getting a lot worse. So
Yeah.
maybe that goes down next episode. My prediction is whether it's the next episode or episode 7 is that I could see whatever episode Oz's mom dying also being the episode where we do the flashbacks with him as a kid, just to tie it all together. Like I could see that them marrying those two things and kind of keeping her at the focus because it's not looking for good for her. And where she's at in this episode is really sad because after everything she's done and been through, she's right back where she started as when she was a mother with the boys, and we still haven't fully spelled out what happened to her brothers, and she really chews Oz out at the end of this one. It's like it's such a she basically calls him a huge disappointment. It's really hard.
But also, can we talk about the biggest heartbreak? Not Clayface dumped Penguin.
No.
Yeah, she rejects him too.
Wonderful acting from Farrell on that scene, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that he can be so expressive and charismatic and captivating, for lack of a better term, while also wearing like 50 pounds of makeup is insane.
It's a pretty good scene where he's like trashing the room and stuff. It's almost on the level of the room trashing scenes like in Citizen Kane and of course The Room with Tommy Wiseau. Not quite to that level, quality. But, yeah.
Really running the gamut of quality there now.
No, those are the same.
They're both
quality.
classics.
I mean, I'd rather watch The Room, but
ooh, shots fired. But we should talk a little bit more about Oz's mom because that was one of my main takeaways from this episode being a little bit boring, or not to say boring, but just like I couldn't really connect with certain parts of it. The conflict between Oz and his mom, on paper, I see why that's interesting, but I feel like I need more, and I think we're gonna get more with that with the flashbacks later. But yeah, the thing of whatever happened to his brothers is still a mystery that I think I would appreciate these scenes a lot more in retrospect, having seen what they're going to do with that later.
That's fair.
Yeah. That's why I struggle reviewing the shows. Like I enjoy doing these weekly reviews, but it's like this is 1/8 of a slice of pie. But real quick, just on a side note, because I was looking into this. So, Robert, you watched some of Dexter, right?
Not really. We've talked about Dexter. I've seen a lot of people talk about Dexter, so I know a lot of things.
The guy that plays Angel Batista in that played Maroni in Gotham. Oh. I'm struggling to imagine that.
I don't remember Maroni in Gotham that well. I'd have to look into that.
I didn't even know he was in that. But it's funny because he's in that, and so is Sophia Falcone.
Sophia Falcone, yeah.
Yeah, I remembered Carmine Falcone in Gotham, but I might have missed
Sophia season 4. No, because that's Crystal Reed, who was in Swamp Thing.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we will cover.
This, but
we will cover some of Gotham at some point.
Yeah,
you guys are the Gotham experts.
Okay.
I've
seen the first 3 seasons.
Yeah, that makes you.
You haven't finished the series, John?
No, I've never seen all of. I quit like 3 episodes into 4.
So I'm technically the Gotham expert. I didn't want to be that. But...
I do want to go. Oh no.
We should also talk about Vic a little bit too. Just going on that same line with that subplot, and he kind of gets his hands dirty a little bit more in this episode. You see when they get the Maroni's son, he's like chasing him and like beating him up too. It's like you see a little bit of a different side to Vic here.
Yeah, even the way he like talks around Oz is changing. He's being more confident, but we're seeing that from the audience perspective. It's like, oh, you're growing in confidence, but you're also like not becoming a better person for it. He's going down this dark path, and it's really sad to watch, but also it's very natural and believable.
Yeah, that's fine. I fully support the corruption of today's youth.
And you see that he's constantly wanting to prove himself to Oz in this episode, and even feels a bit slighted when he's relegated to looking after Oz's mom. But then
Which
you
is
got to
funny
remember
because
that
that's like the most important job Penguin could give him.
no, exactly, and that's even what Oz says in that scene when he tells him to do that. Um, but it's a good conflict because you see that he wants to prove himself more by actually getting into the action. But Oz is like, no, it's you got to look after my mom. She's the most important person in my life. So, of course, I trust you with that.
And then the final shot of this episode is just perfect when they've established this new layer. It's like we're gonna do it, and this is gonna be our operations. The last thing we see is the lights go out.
Yeah, that was good.
It cuts black. It's like, yeah, that's
Yeah,
a little
it's
ominous.
interesting. I do hope they do something with that because it can't be a coincidence that they chose a cave.
It could just be a thematic or a stylistic thing.
And I feel like that tunnel has to somehow connect to the Batcave. I'm not saying Batman. I was joking earlier. I'm not saying Batman is going to show up in the show.
That's
I-
probably
it's
really
definitely-
far away.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
won't knock points, but I think it will be kind of disappointing if we don't. That we're not. I think it is kind of disappointing that we're not getting something with Batman in this.
We don't need it. That's fine.
That excuse of like crime wave increasing can only carry you so far. Like just CGI a guy floating in the fucking background off to fight a fire chase or fight or something.
If that's what'll make you happy, John,
It's
then
big city.
sure, they can do that.
Okay. It is really lucky that they can have firefights and like a guy getting burned alive and Batman is too preoccupied to fight a gunfight. I don't
You
know.
can't
It's a
be
big
everywhere
city.
at once. Yeah, it's a big city.
But,
I can't be
but
everywhere
that's
at
kind of
once.
the opposite of what the point of Batman is. It's supposed to be that he's everywhere. Oh, I would set up for the bat signal in the fucking sky.
Yeah, that'd be nice to see once or twice. But that's a great
did
scene in the
get
Batman,
Wayne-
though.
Sorry, you're going.
No, like I was just thinking of that opening scene of the Batman where like all these criminals are in different places and they're like looking in the shadows for Batman. But of course, he's not literally everywhere. But they think
Yeah.
he's everywhere. But then we see where he literally is, which is in that subway. So yeah, it'd be nice if he was mentioned more. If we saw the bat signal or something.
It would be nice if we
were.
were reminded he exists. Because I don't buy them for a second. Penguin wouldn't also be thinking, I got to do this without attracting the attention of the bat. But he never fucking mentions it. Nobody mentions it.
We do see Wayne Tower in the background at the final shot of the first episode, so there is that. But I'm kind of with you. It is a little strange that no one mentions the Batman by name.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
not something I need, but it is a little strange to think about. Like, oh yeah, he's
Is there gonna
he's a
be
big
any,
part of this city.
Is there going to be any Batman in this Batman spinoff? Hello?
I don't need him
It's
to
not
be
called
a
Batman.
character.
It's called the Penguin.
I don't need him to be a character in the show, though. I don't need him to show up. It's not
the
Batman's
most I'm
story.
asking for is like Gotham City's intro, where he's like in the background somewhere. You tell me
Yeah,
they
sure,
can't
fine.
CGI insert Robert Pattinson standing on a gargoyle somewhere?
Yeah, but that would imply that he's like around this area and looking at this closely. When I think the idea is supposed to be that he is probably just preoccupied with something else.
Every night?
Yeah. The city's in ruins. And he's just a man. As much as he wants to be a bat god, he is just a man.
It's true.
Okay, but like, then Penguin has the greatest chances in the world. The Batman doesn't just randomly stumble upon one of his firefights or crimes that he's committing.
It's a big city.
I can't be everywhere at once, as he says in the movie.
Yep.
Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about with this episode?
No, I think we're good.
All right.
I'm the big development I'm happy about is just that Maroni's still alive. Clancy Brown's great, and teaming up with Sophia, which is development I was not expecting. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
All right. It's time to play Robert's favorite game. Guess that IGN score. Noah, you go first.
Okay, remind me, what did they give the previous episode? A 7?
7.
Okay, so they definitely like
Sure.
this. They definitely like this one less. So let's say a 5.
Okay. Robert,
I'm gonna say a 6.
you're both wrong. They gave it an 8 out of 10.
Of course they did.
What?
With the character stuff out of the way, the Penguin is cut loose in an episode full of chaotic action and high tension drama that begins to deliver on the promise of the premiere.
With the what?
It's like none of that stupid character stuff in this TV character. Give me
now that we
action,
got
damn it.
now that we got that over with.
All
What are you
right,
of
talking
course.
about? That threw me for a loop. I expected them to like the Celeste episode 4.
Yeah, but it's IGN.
I can't predict
You should
IGN.
expect the unexpected.
I can't. I can predict IGN as well as I can predict this show, which is not very well at all.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Is this? Yeah. This is my new favorite part of this review. He talks about how stories about villains can be weird. They're evil characters that are given the protagonist treatment, which means their goals are our goals, their perspective is our perspective, and there can be cognitive dissonance. That can be enticing and enthralling in cases like Breaking Bad and The Sopranos. It certainly is. But it can also lead to some truly bad storytelling pitfalls when it doesn't succeed or able to hammer home sort of messaging, like the Joker movies. Like, how many fucking movies did you just throw in that one? Movies and TV shows did you just throw in that one sentence?
Yeah, but the Joker movies aren't good.
I mean, that's
This
just true.
is
But anyway, Robert, Noah, as always, it's been a pleasure. Chat, have a wonderful night. We'll be back this Friday with what the hell is that book? No, you picked
Batman.
it.
Batman and Dracula: Red Rain.
Red Rum, Red Rum.
Red Rob.
Anyway, have a good night, everybody.
Same bat time, same bat channel.